It doesn't matter if you're in an apartment building in New York City. You are standing on the ground. You are standing on the ground. She supports you every day. This earth supports you every day.
Happy New Year. This is New Year's Eve, and I have Lin Monet and Lisa on the show. They talk to fairies. They talk to beings. Now, Lin sees them, and they kind of move around the house with her. There's a lot of stories involved. We'll see where we get. Lisa talks to them in a telepathic way. And they're very much on the same page as to who and what are fairies. We are going to talk about them because why? It's not just sensationalism. Why are we seeing them now? What are they giving us? What is the message? What is our link to them? What is our true inheritance as human beings? I've already chatted with Lisa about my dream I had last year about my grandfather, who I never met because he passed over before I was born, showing me in an old book he got from up in a ladder in his old family library that I had fairy DNA in me. Very interesting dream. It stayed very full imaged in me. So we are something, aren't we, human beings? And we've had scales shed from our eyes. There's so many revelations. Wisdom is coming back to us. We are regaining our full active human soul potential. And part of it is talking, being, exploring and investigating, getting to know the other beings on our planet, a little octave perhaps above us. So I have started this session with a little clip from this being who I call Elphie, and I'm going to let you girls see her, see what you think.
Oh, wow.
This is slowed down. This is 25% speed.
I have exactly a movie of the exact same thing landing onto the ground.
Exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a small clip. I actually have a bit longer, but I think that kind of gives us enough to kind of get warmed up in. Although some of the shapes, when you see it from another angle, you can see a lot more. But let's just start with that. Now, why are you here, girls, ladies? I was so happy when you contacted me. It was just so
exciting. Good.
Yeah, because
good. Yeah, I saw you on with Dr. Sala, and like your message was so our message, and it was so poignant, and it was so timely for us as well. And we are all things Fae. We know about the Fae. We communicate with Fae, and I think I always have. And I was introduced to Lin from a Fae creature. This creature was actually bothering my sister. He was moving her shoes underneath of the bed. He was leaving tracks across the back of her legs. When she would wake up, there'd be tire tracks across the back of her legs. She's like, what is this? And then she's a big mineral collector. She's a big rock collector. And all of her minerals were rearranged all over her house. And she thought, I got to call my sister because my sister's a little woo-woo and she's going to figure this out for me. So she gave me a call and we did a channeling. And, I can channel anything. I channel trees. I can channel planets, any kind of being.
Kind of good.
And we said, I said, this is a nature spirit. It wants your attention. It's a little inverted. And she goes, well, I think it's Bob. And I said, well, who's Bob? And she goes, Bob is this guy who died in this house before I got it. And I think it's him. And I said, I don't think so. And I said, well, you have to talk to him and, make an offering or, you're not paying attention to what you need to do spiritually, and you really need to go on like more of a spiritual journey. And my sister wasn't really buying any of this. She would talk to this entity and she would call it Bob, and she would talk to it like it was in her room. I don't know. A few months later, she says to me, "Wouldn't it be great to hang out with the Impressionist painters? And wouldn't it be great to hang out with Claude Monet?" And I said, "Are you day drinking? Like, what's going on with you?" And she just, now I just thought it was really cool. And I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever." And about 3 weeks later, Lynn was on Jerry Marzinski, and you were talking about how people have voices in their head. And well, I have voices in my head. So I figured I'm going to watch this. And there was just something about Lynn. I had to call her. I had to talk to her. And I can't even recall what it was. I needed some help. I was in a lot of physical pain, and I knew it was like a spiritual kind of thing. So I thought Lynn could help me. So Lynn starts talking to me, because we're just like the three of us. We're very connected in our way. And Lynn starts talking to me about this entity she has on her property in Louisiana. And this entity is kind of bothering her. He's a little cheeky. And I said, "Well, listen, you know what? I can channel anything. So why don't we channel this entity, and you can talk to him directly?" And Lynn was like, "Okay, that's a great idea." So we did a few channelings. And the first channeling, he said, "Well, you can call me Bob." And I said, "Well, why Bob?" It's like, "Well, Bob, Dick, Joe, whatever, it's just easy for you." And then Lynn told me that she's related to Claude Monet's family. I wasn't putting any of this together. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I said, "Oh my word, it's the same entity. It's the same entity that's trying to get our attention for whatever reason."
Apart geographically were these two places?
My sister lives in California. Lynn lives in South Carolina most of the time. And I live in Pennsylvania.
However,
So
the
it makes a
property's in
wonderful
Louisiana.
little triangle.
And where did you say, Lynn?
I said, however, the property's on Louisiana. The property that they exist in is in the state of Louisiana.
Okay.
Well, there are big portals there. Like Bob told me that there's a big, big portal that it runs from Europe, from like up into Norway, down to about around Spain, and then over to Italy. And the Fae come through this portal from Europe to Lynn's property. It's a huge portal site.
Okay, let's just hold that there for a moment, Lisa. Let's go now to Lynn, because for people, it's great to have a bridge. So could you give a little bit of your work background, what you do, what kind of healing, psychological work do you do? Could you, because that's going to be the bridge to explain a lot of this, I think.
Okay. First of all, I grew up in a haunted house. So I've had the gift of second sight ever since I was a child. I used to have the gift of also hearing, but due to circumstances in my family and traditional religion, that kind of squelched that for a while. And I actually became afraid of my gifts after a certain point, and I would run out of the room, sing a ghost just as fast as anybody else. Coming forward, as a single mother, I purchased a piece of property that was so badly haunted that I was never able to move into it. So first I started delving into the paranormal realm of it. And the thing about the haunting of that house is that I was able to mingle with people of like mind, which then made me realize that I wasn't so strange after all. And I started to nurture my gifts again. And I started my book series of Omnipresent, which is going to be a series of 5 books of various things, and also Colors of Heaven. And I've been a nurse. I'm now retired. So anyway, yes, I have multiple books out. Omnipresent is going to be a series of 5 books. I'm currently writing the book about Bob. And I've been asked by the higher beings of the Fae to write not only that book, but 3 other books. They've told me that they're going to give me the downloads. Boy, have they. I mean, some of the stuff is mind-blowing that I've been told. A lot of secrets they've shared with me. I've even argued with them at points and said, look, are you sure? Are you sure you want this? Because a lot of people aren't ready for this, and they'll turn you into the genie in the bottle kind of thing. They'll have expectations and demands. And, I don't, they're, these, they have such a beautiful childlike wonder about them in many, many ways, and their curiosities. They can be little stinkers too. When I first met Bob, he literally was this grumpy, very, very nasty little creature that actually kind of increased, for lack of a better word, what is the word I'm looking for? My sister was sick, and he actually created her demise, but there was a reason. He did things to push that forward. So my sister did pass away in that house. But however, everything has evolved since then, and it has all happened for reasons with that. But I've also been a nurse for 40 years. I've recently retired. 17 of that is which has been an end-of-life care. So, and I'm also a certified death doula. So I've seen hundreds of people die, and I see them come out of their bodies at the time of death. I get to peer into the other side and see what happens with that. So I've been able to see these things all of the time, but I lost some of my ability to hear when I was little. I'm hoping to get that back because I still get intermittent pieces. Like when Bob would drop F-bombs, he would reference me as 3 F-bombs in a row, very tightly together, the way F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb is what he would call me when he first met me. Yes, that's right. So speeding forward, I inherited this piece of property in Louisiana when my sister passed away. Prior to that, my sister was talking about how there was something in the house, and immediately you think of it as a ghost. You don't think of elementals or Bigfoot walking through your house or anything like that. You just assume that it's a dead person. So she did lots of rituals and things to try to clear the house. It didn't work. So when I inherited the house, I went to the house, and there was this funky energy about it, and I kept finding these 3-inch dirt trails, and they were all perfectly the same length, and they peaked in the center going lengthwise of these dirt trails on my kitchen floor. And I thought, what on earth?
Like the tire tracks on my sister's legs.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like
tires on Elphie's bike. But anyway.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I'm like, what on earth? Does she have termites or something? But these were like in the middle of the floor. So I'd sweep them up, and I'd come back, a couple of times and keep finding them being left in the kitchen of this house. So I told my son, I said, listen, we need to balance the energy. There's obviously a spirit here. We need to pass it on or get it out of here because it doesn't feel very nice. So my son came up, and we went through the house, blessing the house. And when I do that, I use a fire component where I go through with a fire pan, and anything that doesn't want to leave because the fire sucks in the oxygen, they get sucked into, and they get stuck in the bottom of the pan and something sticky. So I went through the house and I did that, and the house seemed to be clear. We did get a few things in there. So I have my entire family is deceased, except out of the 6 of us, I'm the only one left. But I do have a half sister and a half brother, and my sister Mary came in to help me go through my sister's things. And when she was laying in my sister's bed that night, I hear her praying and singing chants and humming things. And at first I thought it was a little weird because, maybe this is her nighttime thing to get her to sleep. I didn't know. So when she came down the next morning, she said that when she opened her eyes, at one point she was awakened, there was this wreath of faces floating over her bed. And she was praying for them to go away, and she couldn't understand why the prayer wasn't working to make them leave. Well, of course, these were Bob's balloons, I called them, and he was standing next to her bed, but we didn't know it. And then I later saw them. But so she first started feeling things. So my son and I are there after we do the clearing, and I'm standing in the hallway bathroom upstairs, and he's standing in the bedroom, the master bedroom doorway. And all of a sudden we see this little thing come out of the 3rd bedroom. He walks past me, walks past my son, and I remember thinking, oh my God, that looks just like the banker on Harry Potter. Because it was this little short, blocky-headed thing with the ears that were up high, kind of went back, the nose, and he walked right past me. Then he walked past my son, and my son, I didn't say anything, but my son says, did you just see Hogwarts go by?
Yeah, that's a memorable one from your video I saw.
Yes, and so I said, yes, and then the Bob came back through 3 other times. That third time, in the portal, the ectoplasmic portal that was left in the hallway in front of that third bedroom, was the wreath of faces. I made the mistake of thinking that Bob had accrued those for his entertainment, but he didn't. He had accrued them to save them from being absorbed by darker things or lorded over by darker things.
Let's pause there for a moment, because that's lots of information for the audience, and we're kind of bringing this. Why? The reason, I think, is there is so much interdimensional activity, and we know so very little about it other than our fairy tales. So, you've spoken of ghosts, we've spoken of potential hauntings, beings that look like maybe gnomes or dwarves or who knows, various things that we're not sure of. You've seen a being like I've seen, so we know what we've seen, and I know you've got lots and lots of experience.
I've got pictures.
Yeah, and you've got some amazing pictures. Maybe you'll share some of those. Before we go into more of the story, because that's going to be the two of you working together and how you worked, let's talk about what they are. Because for me, it was very important, having looked into all of the inner earth stories I could forever. These are my children's books, Transmissions on Planet Zod. This is an inner earth.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. You showed me that. I love that.
They come in contact with. So, I've been kind of playing with this whole realm for a long time. And so I wanted to fit it in. Who was this being? And I found out that they had these antennae, and then I realized there's the ant people connection, and then the inner earth one. So
there's so many. Lynn sees so many.
So when you were first, both of you, kind of experiencing these different strangenesses, interesting experiences, what did you think they were?
For me, the first thing you think of is a ghost. But then when we saw this little blocky headed thing, and I wasn't the only one that saw it. My son saw it at the exact same time, and his description was identical to mine. So I knew I wasn't seeing things. I knew I wasn't anyway. But having that validation, this was right before Lisa and I met. I reached out to 2 friends that were remote viewers. One was in South Carolina, one was in Florida, and I was in Louisiana in the house. So I had both of them come through, and they explained to me that this entity was coming up from the dirt underneath the house, and that he was coming into the house through an area behind the kitchen, through like a stairway that went up to this third bedroom. And ironically, behind the kitchen is a family room where the stairs go down, and there's an area underneath the stairs that goes straight up to the closet of that third bedroom. They said that he was coming inside the house for something. And I knew exactly what they meant, because a couple of days earlier, when my sister was there, we were clearing out papers, and I was in this room where there was this filing cabinet, and all of my sister's beautiful crystals were on top of it.
So this is the stone story, isn't it?
Yes.
They were with this strangeness, and you probably had some guesses according to all the experiences you've had and things you've read and so on. Did you think this being was tangible, physical? What was that relationship? Could you put your hand through it? Was it interdimensional? Was it a different level of frequency? What were your?
This entity can touch Lynn. It can touch her. Yeah.
He's very, very sweet. Just to skip forward, I actually, and Lynn and Lisa can verify this as well. We kind of just asked Bob what he was, and he told us.
And what he wanted.
Yeah, and how he came about and what he was. And after everybody made nice, which is a story that I've told many times that people can listen to on other shows, but we actually asked him, and we found out that the rock was something very, very special too. But he mentioned, and Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong.
And I want to interject this before you talk about the rock. I want to say that Lynn approached this with compassion. She didn't approach it with, I want to get rid of this creature. I want it out of my house. I don't need this in my life. Like, why is it here? This shouldn't be here. This is my house. She didn't have any of that. She said, look, this little creature with the F-bombs, like, there's obviously, it's something, it's in distress. It needs something. And Lynn approached it as, I'm going to help you, like she does everybody.
This is really important, isn't it? Because we have all the stories, all the media, all the movies, fear, 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 fear. And of course, then we're in aggression. So instead, I mean, my experience was just love. This case, you were giving the love and the healing was transpiring and you created a bridge, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a huge, huge bridge maker for Bob. She left him little offerings, like, what, you know, she would ask me, like, what do you think Bob would like for an offering? and she just made that relationship work.
If you're around humans, Lisa, and Lynn is giving him little things, and there is a stone, which to us is tangible, we can all pick it up.
Right.
So, and yet he's not always visible. He's sometimes visible, sometimes not. How is that going on? That kind of perception? Because as far as I'm concerned, they're really quite close. And in some places, it's much easier to be visible than others. That's my experience.
Especially Lynn's house
enabled the visibility. Certain places have portals, different kind of earth energy coming through. So can we talk a little bit in that framework from that point?
Well, the house that Lynn is on, as I said, is a huge portal. It's like an airport for Faye to come to America, and throughout it fans everywhere. So there's lots of traffic going through her house. But at the same time, it was a fallen place. Just like the mounds in your country are fallen places that you've experienced, that, you know, there's lots of bloodshed there. There was lots of sacrifices there just to lower that vibration of that place. There's a lot of, I noticed in my clearings that along these ley lines, along these power lines, there attracts these very fallen souls that have died in pain, whatever reason, and they can't leave this plane. And there were many, many of those souls trapped in these areas. And that lowered the whole vibration of Lynn's house. Lynn's house fell into a lot of disrepair when the sister had it, when she was going through all this stuff. And it was a very fallen place. And Bob was there. I think he was actually holding down the fort. He's a very good portal maker, and that was his job as a Fae. He made portals for the Fae to travel all over the world. And he was sort of trying to hold down that fort, but he had all these problems. And he basically told us, you know, it's your responsibility to clean this up. You're humans, these are human souls, and you need to clean this up. You have to do it. And he told us that the first time we channeled him, that this is your work to do.
Do you go into trance when you channel, or is it more of a telepathic?
I can talk to anything right now while I'm conscious. I'm a completely conscious channel. At first I have to go into trance, but I can really, really, really connect if I go into trance and see visions. But like if I'm walking down the street, I can say to one of the entities I talk to, I said, well, what do you think of this? Like it's a conversation.
It's really worth bringing that up because you'll know, won't you? The channeling group of people, they're falling into somewhat more disrepute, I think. because that
Oh yeah.
vacating of the soul and allowing some other entity that so much
Oh yeah.
to.
I don't
So
approve of
that's why I wanted to
that
make
kind
that
of travel.
definition. Yeah. So
I don't approve of astral travel. I don't really approve. You don't ever leave your body for anything. It leaves it open to whatever's out there. Don't do that stuff.
yeah.
You know, you're in your body. You claim your body. Um, you know, I can't speak for all channels and all things. You know, I'm not opposed to any kind of channeling. I just think you really have to have a lot of discernment because you can talk to anything and anything can pretend to be anything. And I think that and that's happened to me too. I just think that there's such a great discernment. And I also think some of this disclosure that's coming up is, I think it's going to be another false story.
There are a lot of
To,
stories around, aren't there? I've just been listening
yeah.
to Dr. Michael Salla, and I really like him, but I don't know about you guys. And Elena Danan, I really enjoyed all of her information. And then suddenly there was this feud with another lovely psychic, Megan Rose, and I just kind of pushed away from Elena. I didn't want to hear anything more from her. And now I'm kind of back in and wanting to listen again. And I like Michael Salla, Dr. Michael Salla, and his work with JP, because this overlaps so very much, I feel, with what we're experiencing, and we need to bring this information. But just my experience alone of trusting and then having to step back, because so many of us are entity attached, and we have to clear out and be incredibly conscious. So I wanted to kind of bring that point in and see if you can kind of weave that in, because we brought in already the fact that Bob was not friendly to start with. So I'd love to talk about that healing journey.
Well, anything I've ever cleared, I've done it with compassion. Anything I've ever done and advanced myself or anything else, I've done it with compassion. You don't curse anything to hell. You don't you don't exercise things. You show it compassion and you show it love, and that's our greatest power.
That is so true. Yet you set boundaries also.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's another thing too. In my opinion, Lisa's a badass. I love her. She is so multifaceted in so many ways, and I'm truly admire her. And I want to say something too. You know, a lot of times people say to me, "Oh, did you read so and so, or did you see so and so?" No, I didn't. First of all, I'm an author, but I don't like reading. So I don't read other people's material because I have enough of my own, and I don't want to.
That's true.
And I don't want to be influenced by anything, and that's why my stuff is so fresh and raw and there and different than anybody else's, because I'm living it. So, you know, and in the case of Lisa, I'm the way that we're similar. I'm a walking meditation. I don't like have to sit and get quiet with myself. I'm like a walking meditation. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I see things, you know, occasionally
I call it
I'll hear
active
things.
meditation. It's just,
yeah, I mean, I'm meditating all the time. I mean, I'm walking around and, you know, things sometimes come through where I see things more so. But with Bob, did you want us to go from the part of where he was a grumbly little guy and then?
Yeah, it could be perfect.
Okay.
This is the interesting thing for me, that here are us three beings with this awareness, you know, what is coming through and why, because, you know, as you know, it's just crazy at the moment, and there is so much why going on that we need to start to bring into the discussion. So yeah, please.
Okay, all right, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that has come to the surface
as the, you know, a storytelling point. It could be incredibly valuable, because this seems to be the work, if we want to be benefiting from who they are, and the closeness seems to always, we're coming closer and closer the more we are taking responsibility.
The one thing that I have found, that even with people that are kind of like us, is the fact that even though they say they want to see the things, they still have this fear factor. When they do see it, they get the willies. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that Lisa knows this too. This is not Lisa. Lisa's not afraid. Like I said, she's a badass. She goes around with her coffee can, sticking all kinds of things in there. But we won't even. I mean, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, I can clear anything.
But the thing is people don't realize. You know, first of all, when you have this type of situation, the first thing they want to do is bless the house. Well, religious things do not work on the Fae. The Fae have been here since the earth was created. Bob has talked about the creation of the earth.
Exactly. They're an actual part of her. Your Fae are made of different stuff than we are. We're made of the 5 elements. They might be 1 or 2 elements.
And some of us, I remember being told this sentence a long time ago, sort of, you're part of the original gardeners of the planet. And that wasn't my origin, it wasn't my origin story, but I have come in on that level, and that's why I still have some weird active Fae blood.
Well, I was shown the first day that the earth came here, and she was a being, and she divided herself into the 5 elements, and that's how it started.
The origin thing, you know,
that rock,
Christ consciousness we could talk about too, because they know that. They know what it is, but it's not what the church talk about, isn't it? So
the Fae know who they are. They know what their mission is. They're born knowing right and wrong. They know what their mission is. They know what they have to do. Even if it's just like an innate thing and they just go about doing what they have to do, they're like the Earth's caretakers. They're the original caretakers of us as well. Before angels came in and before this duality happened, there are original caretakers. And
that's true.
That rock that Lynn had talked about so much, that rock that Bob absolutely loved beyond all measure, was an original piece of the Earth Mother when she divided herself. And he collected 5 pieces and he put them at that portal site. And there is a new being that is this earth that he has called here. He called her here. He manifested that. He called another being to come in and help us because our earth is a fallen place.
So I knew I was going to bring some colors and pictures. Just when you said that, this is just, remember I showed you this briefly?
Yes.
Yeah. It was just a picture I just drew. Hang on, it's upside down. Whoops. And not really finished, but I just saw these colors. I saw a baby wrapped in these colors. These are actually the colors of my aura very much too. I love them, but I saw with a touch of bright green and blue. So this being, this is interesting, and I like
this is a new. And I'm not the only one that's feeling
thousands of miles information, isn't it?
I'm not the only one that's feeling this. I'm not the only one that's talking to this. There's a new collective consciousness. I think there's a new species that is going to be born on this planet.
I agree. After December 21st, all of the children that are being born have
everything changed here. After this solstice, everything changed here.
Let's talk about who they are, because that will tie into the story of the healing of the place. And Bob, Lynn, can you talk a little bit about who you know these beings to be?
Well, just to back up just a little bit, as you said that you wanted to know how I came together with Bob, and then once trusted, all of the rest of them came in. So, but I had to build that rapport with him, and I had to keep my word. And there were some funny things that I've mentioned on other shows that we can send people to go listen to, so that I'm not taking up the time with that. But once we created that rapport, and he does love Oreos and beignets, by the way, the cookies, he does. And believe me, they disappear every night. So comes to get them. And the thing is too, I wanted to make mention, when Bob was in that form, he's no longer in the form of the little blocky man, They used to ride around in my back seat with his feet shifting back and forth like windshield wipers and going with me to events, and people would see him. They'd mention, "You've got a little boy with you," or "There's Bob." People would see him. He'd be sitting in the chair with his little feet.
Bob's mission was to bring in this soul.
That's true.
Was to manifest this soul and bring in this new soul and welcome this new soul from this portal area, because this portal is very close to our realm.
Yes, it is.
And this new soul that's coming in, I actually think that we're done as a species. Like this form of us is done.
I don't think it's that. Wait, Lisa, let me just put something in here, because let's see if it brings something into your mind. I don't think it's that we're finished. I think we have been blocked too. Blocked.
Yeah.
So it's not that, it's that the way we've presented thus far is disappearing, and now we're reclaiming the stuff they call just
the new children,
the brand new children fully activated
don't have to do this work.
No,
the new children don't have to do this work.
Ready. Like my 2.5-year-old daughter, the cookies thing, this is hilarious. Okay, so because I made her first story for Christmas, her Christmas present, talking to Elphie to make a story for 3.5-year-old granddaughter. And she then came back to me, loved the story, listened to it several times, said, "What do they do for Christmas?" And she wanted to know if they had, she speaks German and English, so Plätzchen, and have a Weihnachtsbaum. And so I kind of said, "Oh, I'll go and ask her." So I did, and I found out stories of giving and celebration, and obviously no Christmas tree, but the Bickies thing came up. I got this image of these green macaroons, you know, the little beautiful French fancy ones. So I think that's funny, and it's worth bringing through, even though it's fanciful and whimsical. But there are you two with biscuits, we call them biscuits, not cookies, you know, over here, and Bob. And there's my little 3.5-year-old really wanting to know about the fairies, because I've seen her soul. She's got fairy dust in her too, you know. And it's interesting, isn't it? Okay, right. I shut up now.
Okay, I want to make clear to something too, that fairies do not have wings. They self-propulse in the air. They actually look like little tiny maggots, for lack of a better word. I don't mean that disrespectful, but they're colorized. A lot of times they come in on the monarch butterflies and the dragonflies. And when they detach, they hover in the air after steering the monarch butterfly, say, to an area that's safe. Like if there's been bug spray put on something, it'll send them in a different direction, and they'll hover there, just like a helicopter can stop right there, and then they'll dart off. And they're beautifully colored. So the wings were placed on fairies by the humans back in the Elizabethan era when, you know, all of that took place. But truly, fairies do not have wings.
Let's talk briefly about the hovering, because I don't know whether you two have had this. I know I have, and I know I've spoken to many people, that in our dreams, we float up and down staircases. So about, 6 inches above the stair, and it's this wonderful zoomy up and down. And in my dreams, I move around. I'm usually about 1.5 feet above the ground when I move. That's
how I travel consciously. Yeah.
Yeah. This is more of a kind of fae thing, but it's interesting, isn't it, to tie it in, because this opens little portals in people's minds to be able to get more information. Okay. So the flying thing's really important, and the wings. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I've seen this with my own eyes. So actually them hovering there, I don't dream. I mean, I do dream, but I don't usually ever remember my dreams very often. So that's another thing too. Maybe it's too much information that they're giving me that I'm not supposed to remember when I come back, but that could very well be. But the thing is that as Lisa had mentioned, that rock was something very precious. And with Bob, we had to be consistent. Then there was one point, Lisa told me, she said, Bob said that the night fae are coming. And my son and I.
That was a fun story.
Yes,
tell that story.
Yeah.
So why do you think they're called the night fae? What was that?
Because they take care of night creatures like birds and that are out. Anything that's out at night, they take care of.
The thing
don't ask me why I don't know why they came to me. I really don't understand my connection to that. But it's anything at night. They live in a mound during the day, and they come out at night, and they'll help creatures. They'll show them water where they can get food. If they're sick, they will heal them. If they're dying, they will help them move on. they just do things to support all the little nature creatures that are out at night. Are massive healers, and they have come to heal me, and they have come to heal Lynn too when we were in trouble.
My
Because
son and
I see these in my third eye. I don't see them in my reality. Lynn sees them in my reality. And I'm like, well, they're about 3 feet high. They have ears. They kind of have like a body that looks a little froggy, and they've got mottled skin and really big eyes because they take care of night creatures. And so I said, would it be okay if I sent them to your house? Because they don't know humans that well, and they would like to get to know us. And she's like, yeah, sure. So I'm thinking, yeah, right. I just sent a bunch of fae to her house. That I'm insane now. So you tell them the story, Lynn.
Let me tell you what I did not tell. My son and I were at the house together. We were sitting in the living room. He was sitting in a chair love seat opposite of where I was sitting.
And this was the summer solstice.
Yes, the summer solstice.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell him that anybody was sending anybody. As a matter of fact, I had forgotten. And and all of a sudden, my son says, there are two short beings standing next to you by the front door. And I looked over and I saw the energetic waffling to the air, because when they're real close to me, I see more of an energetic waffling. And again, energy can't be created or destroyed if you want to take it from a scientific level. It just changes form. So I could see the waffling to the air. I said, oh yeah, my friend Lisa said that the night fae were coming. Well, not only did the night fae come, the dryads came. We had multiple things in there. And
some of the pictures that you took are from that night.
And so they literally filled the room, and the beautiful dryad with her, she's very elegant. When she lays down, she appears deer-like. When she stands up, she looks more like a log, and then the head, and then she's got these branch-like antlers that look like a tree. But she comes to watch over for safety purposes for her, because I mean, she was bringing these precious, beings here for them to look around.
She's like their queen. She's like the queen. And did you know that before Santa Claus and before all of that, we did worship the Deer Mother. We did leave offerings on the solstice for the Deer Mother. And those antlers, they're not really antlers. They contain all the life that she has.
Well, you see,
and when I first,
all of the ant people legends across the whole of North America and partially South America, these antenna, but it's not necessarily even antenna, it's more their dreads. So the American Indian, my hair is my antenna to my spiritual perception.
Right.
Was from that. So these antenna are part of the experience of the humans interacting with them. And they just come up with all these different names, which is kind of beautiful. I just wanted to show this picture, but this was one of the ones I was just doodling around, and I put wings on. This is before I realized they had their hover bikes. So instead of the wings, now I know it's this. These are bikes. These are
I asked about that. When you were talking about the little bicycles and little things, I asked about that. I asked Bob about it, and he said, we're just like you. We have all these levels of technology. It's not the same. There's all kinds of different fae in all different realms. There's all kinds of different things. They have technology. They use technology. He says they just use it differently than you do.
And they've made it very, very clear that they like working at night because the trees are too noisy during the daytime and they don't want to have to hear the chatter. So that's also a reason why they prefer the nighttime, and they are gone in the morning. And then there are other fae that take over at that point if need be. And I mean, there's just so many things. I actually got to see Bob's fingers once. I asked Bob, I said, I want to see you physically. I want to see that. And this one particular night when the fae came in, my son was there again this night, and they were so curious. They were like, what's that? And I was like, well, that's a fork. And what's that? And they were sitting on top of his computer thing like, ooh, look at that. Like that childlike wonder about them. And all of a sudden I see going across the back of my sectional, like piano fingers on a piano, were Bob's hands, and he had 4 fingers. He had the 3, and they were chubby like sausages. You know, you kind of expect them to be gnarly, but they weren't. They were chubby like sausages. They had a very neat fingernail, actually. The nail bed was similar to ours, but it was pointed, not coming off of the fingernail. They were
like, this is the level
the
that
pointed.
Lynn sees in. She
Yeah.
sees these at this incredibly detailed level.
So they came to a point, just a speck over it, so they weren't like creepy, because he was digging in the rocks at that point in time. And the thing about it is his skin appeared to be the same as the texture of that rock. Now, the difference between Bob is that Bob is what is called a rock-un. He likes to make that clear. It's not a rock-in like rock and roll. It's a rock-un with UN in it. He said that his father was a rock-in, and that which is all of the things below the surface, the crystals, the rocks, the soil, the sand. But his mother was from everything above the ground, which is the grass and the flowers. And technically the two are not supposed to get together. So he's biracial.
Can I bring in something there? Because I remember listening to you on that. And from my chats with Elphie, it was also interesting because we talked about the crystal beds, because that was where the souls were being entrapped of the children. But the presumption was that from the crystal beds above to the top of the trees, that was the realm really of these fae people that I was talking to. And they were going to get me in touch with the crystal beings. So that's interesting. They had this also division of strata, and I find that it's great to have corroborations, isn't it, on these kind of details?
Yeah, I do a lot of work with the crystal beings too.
Yeah, which we've also met.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We know the crystal beings.
I just think that. Oh, go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, you go. I'm just saying that
we've also point that we were getting to about the healing.
Oh,
okay.
We've been working towards
the night fae use the crystals
and healing. The night fae healing you, and
the night fae use the crystals for healing. They use it. The night fae worked on Lynn recently when she was under attack by a lot of dark things. And I think they came and they restored her from the attacks that she was under. And they're very caring. They've worked on her dog.
My son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say these dark things, Lynn, were more, let's say, more of a kind of astral entity or reptilian type? There's so much of those piggybacking, trying to
they were
people like us at the moment. Is it that kind of thing?
They were nasty, and there were layers of them, and they wanted to prevent us from opening the portals underneath the house. Because of the beautiful, they were, whatever it was, Lisa said, and I agree with her, that something underneath that house was very, very important for that many layers, like an onion. I mean, there were some things that came out of those that looked like giant water bugs. I mean, that were huge.
There was disease. There was disease on the walls.
Yes.
There were so many layers of, and as I was clearing these layers, and I was going there in my mind, and I was remote viewing this, and I was seeing all of these really gross layers of stuff, and man, I'm tossing it in my can. I'm just like getting rid of this stuff.
And I'm seeing them too.
As I'm seeing this, her son is at that house. He's staying at the house, and he's seeing the exact same things I'm seeing.
That's true.
He texted her the same time I did. I said, listen, there's a hellhound down here. And when you get to that hellhound layer, when you see that really, really nasty 3-headed dog, you know that that's protecting something.
Yes.
So I said, that's got to go.
Lynn, was he in a meditative state, or was this through third eye seeing? Because it's useful to try and qualify these things.
My son, he's also he was actually standing in his closet and saw the reflection of it in the mirror in the bathroom, standing behind him is how he saw it, with his whatever gift, his gift of second sight as well. So, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it just dropped off for a moment, but you're back in full. So
okay, because my phone is beeping for some reason. But So he would see these things standing in corners of the rooms. He would see these things sneaking up behind him. He would feel them. They actually at one point sent him to the hospital because he had eaten a piece of fruit on the property that he'd never, a kumquat, that he'd never tried before. And the creatures that were standing there that didn't want to keep getting cleared away by us owning the land, and Lisa, they're clearing, doing all of the work, and did amazing work. They're helping us. He thought that he was having an allergic reaction and his throat was closing, and it was so real that he fell to the ground and couldn't move. The ambulance had to come and take him to the hospital.
And Lynn's telling me all this. Lynn is telling me all this stuff. And I said, I'm getting pissed off. I'm like, this is it. I'm going in. I don't care. Whatever happens to me, happens to me. I don't care. Like, these things don't attack my friends.
So this guy I just showed you was because when I was a child, we lived next to what was one of the English dumps, deep underground military bases, where they created radar. And this guy was helping me out. He was kind of befriending me. We lived in a 500-year-old house, and I was seeing all the spooky stuff, you know. So it's just interesting to bring these parallels in, because I was being I thought I was being strangled over a rubbish bin,
I'm sure.
trash can,
I'm sure.
but actually he was trying to get something out of my throat. So these kind of level of attacks that we're talking about, clearing out the nasty stuff and these other entities, and then we have these friendly guys that we have to treat with great respect,
right,
and integrity.
Yes, yeah. Well, there, you know, there's the as far as Fae are concerned, there's Fae, and then there's Fallen. Just like us, there's, you know, there's good people and bad people, and there's people that are highly demonic, and there's Fae that have to serve a Dark Lord.
Do they talk? Have you talked to them about that story, about the Fall story in their realm? Because I haven't had that conversation. Have you had that?
They, you know, Bob told me about how he fell, and how he got 3 strikes against him, and he had to serve the dark. Now, when you serve the dark, you have to do his bidding. If he tells you to go trip somebody on the street, you're going to go do that. If he tells, you know, put an attachment on whatever, you got to go do that. Now, there's different levels of that. Bob wasn't very that much inclined, and Bob said, you know, I was terrible at it, you know, but there's some that are really good at serving the dark, and they do awful things, and they want his attention and his the power that he will give you. And Bob's like, I didn't really want any of this, but you know, I'll send you the story of how Bob fell.
So it's coming back, because if he was crotchety when you met him, Lynn, and then
he was a fallen entity.
So and did you help him reestablish himself?
Yes,
into his self. So this is a story that needs to be told, because you know, we're so concerned with us on the planet, because we forget that we're interwoven with everything else, and where we go one, we go all. I mean, it's a worthwhile phrase. So to talk about us and them and this journey that we're both on, you know, it's really worthy of.
You know, the thing about him is not only has his heart. I mean, my sister's demise was, I think, one of his last feats, because he was pissed off about the rock. But he has now evolved into a beautiful light worker spirit, and he's doing magnificent things for the collective consciousness. He's not this little rocky-headed thing walking around. He shed that shortly after he started to love us as humans. When his heart melted,
his whole form changed.
He is,
we saw his form change.
Yes,
your level of consciousness denotes your form, not only collectively for us, but for Bob too. Especially for Bob. I mean, we saw him change from a really scruddy little creature
to like a Dobby, and now he's almost human form. Now he's into a light form. I mean, it's just He's magnificent.
This is very accelerated, isn't it? Because this is only in the last few years. And obviously we're talking about
This was the last couple months.
in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Okay, because they're already accelerated anyway, aren't they? You know, as far as I would just call it this higher octave. That's sort of the easiest way of putting it into words. But this, let's call it ascension pathway, for want of a better word, too. This transformative energy that we can all come into.
But think how powerful
his relationship to us. Did he consider himself akin to us genetically? Were we of his tribe?
I don't see that we're any different than those leaves outside on the trees. We are not different from that. That's part of our soul. They are all part of the Great Mother. And
we are too.
When she came here, she divided herself up, and they're just a division of us. There's many, many realms on this planet. She showed me, like, it's a great big diamond. She showed me this great big diamond, and we're just one facet in her diamond. And there's many, many, many realms, and even on other planets. I mean, if we look at Mars, we say, oh, it's a dead planet. No, they're done with their third density. There's more realms, and when you land on Mars and you stand there, you know, you're going to land where your level of consciousness is.
We're probably also not seeing the real footage, I suspect. But, you know, there are people like here in this room, this virtual room, who've had real experiences, touch, feel, hearing, whatever it is. So then there'll be plenty of people who know this in their blood, in their heart. But it's like, how do I get there? Like my little granddaughter said, Grandma, how is it that you see fairies? She asked me that question. This tiny person, yes, because she's so brilliant. And, you know,
I didn't go on this journey because I said, oh, well, you know, like, I want to see fairies, or what. Ask what you can do. Ask what you can do for the earth, because that's what I did. I said, well, you know, if I'm here and you're telling me I have all this great power and I have all this stuff, well, you know, show me what I need to do. And I had to do a lot. There's a lot of clearing I have to do for myself, karmic clearing that, like, I'm still going through. There's a lot of stuff that I had to do to clear my own self so I could invite this greater part of my soul into me to do this work. That's part of the reclaiming that we're talking about. We need to reclaim ourselves. We need to reclaim our souls. We need to reclaim our planet.
Absolutely. I agree with that for sure. So, yeah, I was just thinking of something I was going to say, and it kind of flew out of my head.
What you're now doing with him? That was my telepathic nudge.
And I would just like to say this too. Fae were not my forte. I was into the death and dying thing, helping people cross over, the paranormal thing, helping people get oogie boogies out of their house and helping them clean up their life. This just fell into my lap. And I'm learning, and thank God we have Bob. Bob has been so gracious to share so many of the secrets of the other side. And I feel so honored, and Lisa too. You know, we're both very honored to be entrusted with this information, and that he is still around us. And I just like to mention too, when I go back to claim my land there, which I do remotely because I'm here, but I jump on. I've caught him on occasion leaning against a tree there, and he is now wearing these pleated pants. They're kind of a grayish color pleated pants and a button shirt, and he's got a haircut like Trump has. It's kind of, and it's white.
I saw the quib.
Yes, he has a haircut like Trump. Oh, and it's funny because I was kind of chuckling.
I think he likes it because it covers his ears.
You said his shirt was yellow plaid. Did you say it was yellow plaid, like a mustard yellow with a? That's what I was saying.
It was. I didn't see the color because it was at nighttime when I saw him, but it is a lighter color. But the thing is his hair is like that white, like President Trump, and I was chuckling about it, and he got embarrassed. So because he's not comfortable in that body form right now, so he's been kind of shying away from having to see us. But he was leaning against the tree, and he's always got this very beautiful, cheeky personality. he's like, hey there, how are you? And I'm like, what are you doing? But the thing is too, is I'd like to add is they do have emotions. Bob gets so emotional that he cries sometimes. He is so endearing and so precious, and he can be very nasty, but not with us, because
they have the same emotional realm.
They do.
Emotional scale that we do.
And more freedom.
They have emotions. They have
more freedom. More freedom of expression of their emotion, because we've got all these, these nonsensical societal norms of how angry you're allowed to be or how true.
Oh, I've channeled Bob when he's crying, and I'm crying. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the emotion for things is just so overwhelming sometimes that I'm crying while I'm channeling.
Yeah, and I've told him too, and he knows that I would protect whatever he has left on that property with my life. Flat out. Yeah. And he knows that. And I mean that. I'm not interested in taking it. I'm not interested in handling it. That is his property, the rocks and whatever, because he's built all of these triangular portals with these rocks, and he has this area in the backyard where there are these 5 trees come together, which is where he enters to go to he went to Ireland and was knocking on all the doors to tell his friends that he met humans that are nice. So then my son starts getting he met these people, not people, these all of a sudden these spirits of fae show up that are kind of blue colored like Smurfs, but they have the icicle beards, and they introduced themselves to my son. There were 6 of them, and says, we are the beings that help guide the frozen water off of the mountaintops. And Bob told us to stop in and say hello.
And they were on break because they only do that in the spring.
Yes. So they came in and saw him, and then my son was also catapulted at one point into the ocean and met the water people. So all of these realms are opening up, and we're being allowed. I don't know why Lisa and I were chosen for these things, and my son too. I guess they see our hearts as very, very pure. And the thing that was funny that the blue people told my son is they said to him, yeah, Bob said that we could come and say hello and you wouldn't be afraid of us.
I mean, I keep on getting that they want us to keep on talking. Be brave and be mouthpieces, because it's inevitable that we meet. We may have been misled highly as humans, but we know that something is happening, and it's an inevitability.
Getting back to that one thing I wanted to say, if you want this relationship, if you would like this relationship, what I did was I started to pray every day. I started to set my intention every day. And I asked a very open-ended question to the Divine Mother, because I know she's always been with me. I said, how do I serve? What do I do? What's my mission? What can I do? And I didn't make any plans. I didn't have any idea. I'm your instrument. Give me what I need to give to serve you.
Lynn, and I want to just finish with anything just on that line, because that is the message.
Yeah, it is the message. And the thing is too, is like currently I'm in the process of writing 3 books to a series, because I was approached by the Queen, and I was asked to write these books in order to bridge the gap between the humans and the Fae, because during this time where the frequencies are elevating, those that are choosing to be elevated, and that doesn't mean that you're going to die. Our bodies are going to be a little bit more luminous and bright. Those of us that can see each other with that same light.
You said that you were asked by this Queen to write these books.
Yes, to write these books, and that they would send me the downloads. And let me tell you what, they are sending the downloads. They're talking about some things that are so beautiful that it's almost like somebody, would be. These are fantasy things, but they're real. And the thing is too, is people, as their frequency raises, we're going to start seeing these beings because they're coming back to help us. Traditional religion has demonized them so badly with it, which they have with everything. depending on what your religious choices, even ghosts of your parents are considered demons sometimes. But these beautiful beings have been demonized so badly because Lucifer was their leader. I mean, when Lucifer, being a beautiful angel, decided to take things into his own hands and got kicked out, they aimlessly followed him because he was their king. That's who they followed. So right, and they didn't understand fully what that meant. And that's kind of where Bob has come into place. And the thing is the reason why Bob has evolved is because he has volunteered. He wants to do something good for the human race. The new consciousness that is elevating into these realms, these beings will not be included in, and as Lisa will tell you too, like for instance, the water people, because they're more narcissistic in that sense, they're not being included into the collective consciousness.
You have to fit into the new templates for our creation. There are new templates. If you don't fit in with unity, harmony, joy, abundance, courage, love, and compassion, these are like new templates for our creation. We are going to move into a time where the only way that we're going to create reality is through these energies. And this is from source. These are new templates for our new species and who we're going to be. And they're like training wheels for us to get us to create in a different way that we have. You won't be able to create things, destructive things anymore.
Right.
And the dark knows it, and they're scrambling. They are absolutely scrambling to lower our vibration.
Some of the mechanics of this is what I was talking to Lucy about, and I had a chat with this little grey guy who was the one bringing the energy into the matrix field. So from just,
and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are.
Hang on,
you could be a grey.
Yeah, but this guy was, and his hive beings, they were used by the darker field of the Nephilim, let's just call them that, or the demonic, to program our structure, our matrix. And the interesting thing is now with this upsurging of what we would probably call the feminine consciousness, or let's just say fuller connectivity to earth and nature and the feminine creation principle, we in our souls, our sovereign souls, are now having to take the responsibility to do that creation work ourselves. And in that framework, exactly that beautiful list you just put in together, Lisa, that's that energy. And the previous existence we've had to tolerate for so long was kind of overtaking, greed, power, control, and we're leaving that.
And that's the way that this new template is the way that it was supposed to be all along, but there had been interference by other things, and those other things will no longer be able to have any effect. And that's why
sort of what I channeled this morning, that before, if you experienced great joy, you would owe Lucifer great sorrow. Before, if you were experiencing great happiness, you would owe Lucifer great sorrow. But these energies that are coming in now, they're new, they're pure. You don't owe Lucifer anything in this system. You owe nothing. You are free. And it's not just because the Christ died for us. It's because we want a world where this is going to happen. We want a world where we are in unity, and we can do that. And I believe that, they prophesized this 1,000 years of peace is going to be us working with these templates. And it doesn't matter what kind of being you are on this planet, because there's a lot of different kinds of beings on this planet. It doesn't matter if you're a gray or a reptile or whatever it is you are. They have made this beautiful offering of these energies. Here, look, create with this. And if you can create with those energies, then you're in.
Yeah, the
Divine Mother loves everybody. And it doesn't matter what you've done or how you've evolved. It's like, this is where this planet's going now. And we're going to need to fit into those energies. And these energies, I've been shown, are like egregores. They're collective consciousness creations from the universe, and not ones that are tainted here with this dark energy. These are pure. These are the best of the best that can come to us, the best of the best energies. And they have been brought here. And this isn't a new template, and it's going to be put into the 5 elements of this earth. And you're going to be able to work with these energies. It's like in the 23rd Psalm, it says, thou preparest a table in front of thee for thine enemies. And this is what they do. If you can partake of what's on that table, if you can partake of unity, harmony, joy, abundance, courage, love, and compassion, then you're in. You can come along on this ride. But if you cannot, you cannot create here. You can't be here. You'll have to go someplace else. Your soul is going to have to go someplace else.
It's dualism, isn't it? The plus minus, which we were separated into, and now it's the two as one current. And that's
and they won't be able to return here as reincarnating, because the earth is going to be remaining at this level with this new template. But with something else I wanted to add that Lisa also shared with me, Bob has seen Jesus, and he actually described what Jesus looked like. Remember, Lisa, you were telling me about that, about how he's about 5'11", that his hair is and his skin is a little bit darker than what they represent him as, more Middle Eastern.
I vaguely remember channeling that.
Yeah, do you remember that? You were telling me.
I was really out in that channel.
So if anybody is questioning whether these beings are God-made or not, they need to. I mean, he was here when Jesus was here, so he would know exactly what Jesus looked like.
Well, if anyone questions whether they're God-made or not, they don't have a very wide definition of God, do they?
Well,
God is the creator. There's all the creations.
Yes.
What it comes down to is that, Jesus had his mission here. He came here, he showed us the agape love, the total love, and he showed us how to go forward. And there's been a long line of people. There's been the Buddha, there's been Muhammad, there's been all these people, and not all religion, all elements of religion is bad. It's just that what it's been twisted into.
Yes.
I mean, any opportunity to control us is taken.
It's interesting that they do have this awareness of it as well.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Diagrams of what the Christ consciousness layer is that you can tune into, etc. Because this is important, because we've got all these factions branching off, haven't we? Like my mother, sweet, sort of spiritually minded English woman, saying, "Oh, but the extreme Christians in the United States, that's scary." And
it is scary.
And some of it can be scary.
I agree.
And I had someone else who should be really understanding today turn into just a nightmare, and I had to just, block him. And it's fascinating to see what is happening right now. We're kind of getting we're
really seeing all this agitation. We are really seeing a lot of agitation right now, because they know that this is coming. They know, the controllers know that this is coming. They know that the game is over, and who knows what they're going to come up with for us next. We have to keep our eyes on the prize and keep creating with that positive energy. And we're going to have to, like as healers, Lynn and I will help anybody that needs help working with these energies, that needs help clearing these things. We're happy to work with anybody that needs this kind of healing. And they just come to me. I don't advertise. I don't have a platform. I don't have people just show up.
You'll get people, from here. They'll obviously we put in.
If you want to participate with this, it's there for you. I mean, these energies, some people are just going to slip into this energy like it's the best dress they have ever worn. And other people are going to struggle with it. And we're here for those people who are struggling with it. If you're full of demons and you're demonically infested, you know what? I can clear it. But if you like them and if you like working with them, then don't call me.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
Because-
people
yeah.
they get so used to having it that they will refute any.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Right.
Don't call me if
And-
you just want to get rid of your demons and
But
not do the work. Don't call us.
my mama,
Right. I
she
agree with
had,
that.
but she was possessed most of her life, and she
Yeah.
finally told it to go. Finally, I worked hard at that in the background. But so
Yeah.
it's great to know that it's possible. All these beautiful cleansings, redemptions. Final words, Lynn.
Your intention is amazing. If you just say, "Listen, I want the new." That's all I did. I just said I wanted the new. And everything came to me. All my gifts came to me. All the things that they gave me to clear, to do these clearings, all the power that I seem to have, it came to me because I just said, what can I do?
And the same for me. I opened and volunteered as well. And I came from a place of genuinely meaning that. You know, the thing is when people do come to Lisa and I for help, and I second the motion on the demon thing,
Yeah.
you know, I get so many people that come, and I'm not saying this to be negative, but I have so many people that come that are sitting in a pile of poo and they want me to clean up the poo, but yet they keep making more poo. So there are things that they need to do to change prior to that healing, because they really have to want it and they have to be willing to let go of their addiction. They need to clean their house, because if your house is cluttered and nasty, negative energy lives there. And even if I clean up your poo, you're rolling out the red carpet for the poo to come right back. So they have to do their work also. They have to, it just, you know, people, they create this and they want it to be cleaned up, and well, you come and take the attachment off, or you come and clean this up. But in order for it to be able to stick, they have to do their part, and they have to do some
I would like to speak to that. One of the things that Lynn and her son absolutely had to do to clear that property was to go claim that space. Put your hand on that soil and just say, this is my space. This is mine. I love this place. I claim this place. This is my earth. She's part of my soul. She is me and I am her. And you claim that space. And that's the first thing I tell everybody to start doing on their property.
Even that has become foreign, hasn't it? I know we've got to finish this any moment, girls. We do have to.
Yes.
With the career, moving around for your career or for your education or whatever, this attachment, I called it rootedness in my PhD. It was this, what do I call this quality of leading to stewardship in partnership? It's, you have to know that this place and you can bond. And unless you can stay in a place, but we've got a culture that doesn't allow that. The property taxes, the price of land.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You pay rent, you pay energy, you put energy. If you live here, you claim the space, you're paying rent. It doesn't matter if you're in an apartment building in New York City. You are standing on the ground. You are standing on the ground. She supports you every day. This earth supports you every day. And all you have to do is say thank you. And I'm part of you, and I claim you. And therein lies your power.
That's what Elphie says. She says, this is the goal. This is the goal. Connecting the human spirit into the spirit of nature, into the earth. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Come back. Let's do
it. It was a pleasure to meet you, Isabel. And Lynn, as always, love you very much. And
love you too.
Our adventure continues.
So there's something you would love to bring forth, because you are in a very fast-flowing evolutionary river, the two of you, with your experiences. It would be beautiful if you want to come back and we'll discuss that.
We'd love to come back.
So, thank you so much. I
would love to come back.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for your time and your energy and your love.
Bye-bye.
You as well. Thank you.